Hello everybody and welcome to GP Weekly Interviews with your host Gus P. Tonight we will be interviewing a very important person who is a ghost because he died a long time ago. His name is Hugo Vivian Hope Throssell and he was involved in World War One. The reason he is important is because he saved many lives and won the Victoria Cross, which is the highest military award possible. Let's welcome him to the show. Hello Hugo, how are you?
Yeah, good. I'm feeling a bit dead inside, but that's because I'm a ghost.
Good one. Today we will be interviewing you about your life story. So, let's get started. What was life like growing up?
I had a great life growing up. I was one of 14 children in my family and youngest son of George Throssell and Annie Morrill. I worked with my brother on a farm and it was very fun working because he was there with me. I went to a school named Prince Alfred College in Adelaide and was captain of the football team and became champion athlete. I was a very lucky person.
Very lucky indeed. Now, before we get into World War One, what were you doing before enlisting to join the army in 1914?
I was working as a jackaroo at a cattle station in the north of the state before I started work on a farm in Western Australia with my brother and took up land at cow cowing in the wheat belt in WA in 1912.
Yeah, sounds good. Now, war at the time would have been an adventure but also scary. Why did you enlist in the army?
Oh yeah, I enlisted in the army because I wanted to help and protect my country. I also wanted to help all the soldiers in World War One who were serving for Australia to come home. It was hard to leave my home and family, but I wanted to help everyone and felt that I had to go.
Oh yeah, very brave. When you arrived at Gallipoli, what were you feeling at the time?
Oh yeah, I arrived in Gallipoli in August 1915 at the Neck on 7th of August and just before the regiment's ill-fated charge. I was lucky to survive that. But when I arrived, I was feeling very scared, but knew I made the right choice to help my country and be brave. If I chose not to help my country, I would have been feeling guilty at home.
Yeah, and at war, what was living in the harsh conditions of the trenches like?
Oh, it was one of the worst things of war. All the trenches are covered in bodies, which is sad, but they smell terrible. Sometimes I can still smell it now. It was a revolting sight and smell, and the work we were doing was so heavy, so we couldn't bury the bodies. We couldn't escape the smell because of what we had to do for the army.
Sounds terrible. Now, Hill 60 was a very important place for you at the war. What was your goal at Hill 60?
Oh yeah, the goal of my group at Hill 60 was to seize and hold a trench on the summit of Hill 60. Hill 60 is called that because it is around 60 metres above sea level and, well, it's a hill. When it was time, the 10th Light Horse Regiment, which I was in, rose from our trenches and advanced to the trench we wanted to seize. We got it and got into a fierce bomb fight with the Turks. It was one of the fiercest bomb fights because we were throwing bombs back from the Turks who were throwing them at us and all of that. We ended up keeping the trench though, which was our goal, and I was very proud of my group.
That's good. Now, you were wounded twice and covered in blood, but you kept on fighting. Why?
Oh yeah, I was shot in the shoulder and neck, but I carried on fighting. I just didn't want to leave my group and the fight since there was so much going on. If I left, I would have felt guilty that I wasn't helping my unit. And I didn't want any of them to die while we were in the fierce bomb fight, so I continued fighting with them until I was forced to come out.
Very tough. Now, you fought lots of tough fights. What was the most serious fight for you?
Oh, after the fierce bomb fight that I just talked about, and just before daybreak, the Turks made a large charge for us. I was in charge since a more senior officer was killed. It was very challenging for us as well, since out of the 160 in the unit, many of them had been either killed or retired with a wound, so there weren't many soldiers left. The Turks came out of their trenches and were shouting and running towards us, thinking there were more of us than there was. We were shooting at them and trying to slow them down because if they got a little bit further, they would have seen that there were few of us and could have easily defeated us. We were lucky though, because a machine gun came at dawn break and settled the Turks' charge.
Yeah, very lucky. Now, how did you win the Victorian Cross? And what did you feel? What were your thoughts when you found out you were awarded it?
I won the Victorian Cross Award during the bravery I had in the fierce bomb fight. I was catching bombs in the air thrown by the Turks and throwing them back at them. I was saving my mates' lives while I was covered in blood and had been shot in the shoulder and neck. I was awarded it for bravery, but I was just trying to help my unit come home to Australia. I felt very proud of myself, but I felt I wasn't the only one who should have been awarded this medal. So I accept this award on behalf of all the soldiers that fought and died, because all of them were so brave.
Very humble of you. So, it would have been hard to transition back into your normal life. Could you tell us a little bit about the transition?
It was hard to move back into my normal life, but I found myself a wife and she made me feel a bit better. We also had a kid named Rick. He was named after my brother, who was sadly killed in the same war I was in. But it was still hard to get into my normal routine, and I was getting nightmares and flashbacks, which in these days is called post-traumatic stress disorder, and was suffering from depression because of all I experienced in the war. So I chose to end my life so I could be in a better and happier place.
Geez, that sounds tough. Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much, Hugo. Everyone here appreciates what you did.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. See you next week.